the effect the internet has been incredible. When I first started doing my radio show, I pitched it to so many different radio stations, all the big radio stations, and every single person said no. So I was like, cool, I'll do it independently and I'll do it myself.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's episode of the Creator Business Show. My guest today is my dear friend Zaaman Abbas, also known as DJ Complexion. He has a show on the BBC, which was just renewed. And I first found out about him through his show, the Future Beats Show. He has a global community of listeners, all continents, including Greenland. And he is now on episode 296 of his show. He's a DJ, A&R, amazing creative. He has an incredible aesthetic. And if you check out his album art on his SoundCloud podcast, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. It's space themed. You see, we're in the San Francisco spaceport. So we talk about his journey to monetizing on Twitch only after doing his show for 8 years, some of his blockers in his business, some of the opportunities that have presented themselves because of the pandemic. It's going to really be a great conversation, and I'm really grateful for you for being here. So let's dive into today's episode of the Creator Business Show. Well, welcome to the Creator Business Show. My name is Chikadi Chima. I am honored to be joined by Zaaman Abbas, also known as DJ Complexion. We have a lot of history. He's been a huge inspiration to me, and I will just let you introduce yourself and we can go from there.
Thank you so much, Cody. As you said, we go way back, and it's my absolute pleasure to now be on the other side of this, because normally it's you listening to me. So now I'm a part of something that you're doing, which is great. So professionally, I'm known as DJ Complexion. I've been DJing for coming up to 20 years, I think. I've worked with plenty of artists. I've done A&R work. I've done radio work, some production work. And currently I have a radio show that I'm running myself. And I also have a show on BBC Radio 1 Extra as well.
Hey, congratulations. That's
thank you.
That is such a career achievement. And I know that was something that you really sought to do for a long time. So the show on the BBC is called Future Wave, and your SoundCloud show is
the Future Beats Show.
The Future Beats Show.
Yeah, so we play lots of very forward-thinking, down-tempo electronic music, but we also explore other avenues of electronic music. But the whole idea just came about myself wanting to listen to music which wasn't club music. I DJ as a full-time profession, and I'd finish DJing, have a long drive home, and the only thing that was on the radio was either stuff from the 70s or 80s, or it would be like really hard music, whether it was hip hop and R&B, whether it was house music. And I wanted to have something else I could listen to, which was a bit more calming, a bit more meditative, I guess. And I started exploring this electronic scene. And lo and behold, nearly 8 years later, we have a radio show which is listened to worldwide. We have between 25 to 30,000 listens a week. We've had a successful merch launch, and like I said, we've worked with many brands, artists, and it's become something which I'm really proud of, and it's something I never thought that would have got to the point it's got to.
Well, that's so cool, and not only that, but the Future Beats kind of, you are the kingmaker, if you will, for the sound.
I mean, people say this, and I guess, not only being British, I just don't like to talk about myself like I'm this or this, or I'm the person who just, made this sound or anything. What I will say, I'm a fan of this genre of music, and I push it out to as many people as I can. I guess is the way that I can say it. And that makes me cringe just a tiny bit saying it as well.
Yeah, because you're British. So if you're unfamiliar, the show is called The Future Beats Show, hosted by DJ Complexion, Zaaman.
Yep.
And on the BBC, you can listen to the episodes on the BBC Sounds app, and it's a Future Wave. And so as he was saying, there is now, or is a whole genre called Future Beats, and they're somewhat synonymous. So it's pretty amazing. And over the course of the show, you don't really do artist interviews anymore, but certainly you've had the opportunity to connect with, artists across the spectrum. And, you've worked with and DJ'd with some of really notable musicians who are really hitting their stride today.
Yeah, I think that's something I'm really proud of. And I don't intentionally do it, but I've managed to, champion artists that I've been a big fan of, and they've gone on to do amazing things. I mean, there's artists that I've played on the show 5, 6, 7 years ago, and they're now signed to Drake's label, or they're doing something else really huge, or, it just, I mean, I'd call it luck. Some people say I have an ear for this stuff, so if someone else wants to say that, I'm fine with that. But yeah, I'm really happy being able to do that. In terms of the artist interviews, someone I used to work with, he had a background in interviewing, so that's something he brought onto the radio show, and eventually it got to the point where to have full-on interviews with artists, I wanted to make that a separate project rather than interrupt the music, because if you listen to the show, it can vary between an hour and 20 minutes to 2 hours. And what a lot of my listeners have told me, they like to press play and just get on with their day, whether it's working out, whether it's working in the office, or doing anything. We've even had people conceive babies to the show, which I say, if you have a child while listening to the show, the middle name of the child has to be Complexion. It's just the rules. I don't write them. But it's been interesting just to hear these different kind of stories from people. And I think having interviews would sometimes break that apart. So that's something I'm still working on, where I can fully showcase people that I'm a big fan of, and also people that I think are going to go and do big things.
So, this is the Creator Business Show. As you mentioned, artists that you have played have gone on to get record deals, do world tours, many things. How do you monetize? Let's talk about the ways that you as a DJ, having done A&R work, et cetera, monetize, and how is this a business for you?
So this is what's really interesting. If you believe, I mean, I'm sure you would, because we're actually friends and we've spoken a few times about this, but for everyone else listening and watching, I didn't actually monetize the show until the lockdown happened, until COVID hit us. For the longest time, 6 years maybe, I never made any money from doing the radio show. My radio show went out on a local community radio station, and I'd also upload it to SoundCloud, where it would be able to, people can listen to it worldwide. And we had some merch sales years ago, but we broke even with that, and it was something that I should have continued on, but I didn't. And then the only way I made money was actually from DJing, doing other events that weren't on brand, but something I would have to do just to be able to get paid, which enabled me to do radio. Once lockdown kicked in the UK, and I wasn't able to go to any clubs, like a lot of us, we were stuck at home. So I turned to Instagram and Twitch, and I started streaming on these platforms. And the great thing with Twitch is that you can subscribe to someone's channel. At the time, it was $5. I know Twitch now have adjusted things for different exchange rates around the world, but it was $5, and the person who was streaming would make half the money, and Amazon would take the other half. And in return, they would support you, and you'd get access to little emotes that you could use in the chat room. And also you can get access to other things as well. Like you can have a mailing list where you can send music or other exclusive things to people on the mailing list. And that's how initially I started making money, was from Twitch. And also, once we had announced that we were going into lockdown, people just started sending me donations. And they were like, look, we know you DJ, so here's some money from us just to keep you going, and thank you. I think in the first 2 months, we ended up making like £4,500, which we donated to food banks around the world. We helped out a few listeners who were going through some really hard times. And then that, to me, was like, right, we can actually make money from this. And once I mentioned on the show that I wasn't actually monetizing the show at the time, people were like, what do you mean? And they just like, right, how can we support you? So for me, I've never been the kind of person who's wanted to just say, hey, give me money. I was like, if I can do something for you, then great. So we had a merch launch. We redesigned the merch. We had an amazing designer. We had a printer based in the US who designed a bunch of t-shirts for us. And we just sold merch. Literally, we just outsourced to different people. And we sold t-shirts, and we made a really good amount of money from that. The problem with merchandise is unless you're constantly outputting merch, it's very difficult to make a living off of that. If you're a clothing company, it's great. I think for someone like myself, it's a great way to subsidize certain things, and once in a while you can do merch. But I feel like once you've bought a t-shirt from us, you don't want to buy another one in 3 months again, unless it's something really unique. Oh, you okay? Fine.
I would buy. Yes, I've bought a couple t-shirts. Yeah.
So here's what I will say though. I feel like, I know a lot of people say this, but the people who listen to my show, the listeners and the fans, they genuinely are just the nicest people who just want to see me and the community win and succeed. And I'm very lucky for that. I will never take that for granted. But yeah, so the merch sales coupled with the Twitch subscriptions was a great way to actually start making money from the radio show. And that's how it's been. Genuinely, that's it. I've used my DJing to subsidize the radio show. And then from the radio show now is bringing in money from merch sales, which is, well, we've only done one big drop of merch, but we're going to have some more of that. And the subscriptions from Twitch, and just regular donations from people. And now that I'm doing the show on BBC One Extra, that of course it's a fully paid job. So I'm doing that as well.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, okay. So let's talk about, I mean, there's a couple things. Making a living as a Twitch streamer or having it as a significant source of income. On the show, you have listeners from where?
From all over the world. I mean, predominantly, I'd say 60 to 65% of my listeners are US based. But we've had people from Australia, from Japan, all over Asia, Europe, Africa, people all over.
And does your subscriber count reflect, like the paid subscribers, are they also global, or is it primarily US?
Yes,
as well?
it's definitely global, but it's 100% primarily the US. What I found is during the lockdown, when everyone was at home, there was a lot more subscriptions, a lot more people viewing, because I tend to stream between 8 and 10 p.m. on a Mondays when I do my radio show live. So what we do on a Monday is we stream the Future Beat show on Twitch, and then this gets recorded and then uploaded to SoundCloud for people to listen back to whenever they like. And then that recording also gets broadcast on the community radio station that I'm on called Westside FM, which is based in the west side of London. So what I found is now that people are going back to work, it's a lot more difficult for people to join into the live streams, no matter what time I do. Some people don't work in front of a computer screen, so they can't view the stream as well. And because I'm based in London, the West Coast, which is one of my biggest audiences, the West Coast of America, you guys are 8 hours behind me. So for me to do an evening stream, which people would be able to watch, I'd have to be streaming at 4 or 5 a.m., which unfortunately doesn't work for me. You know, so I've seen that the subscribers have dropped off. The viewership has slightly decreased. However, the listenership on SoundCloud has increased. And also with the BBC show, that's opened up a whole new audience for me as well, which is great.
As it turns out, I'm a Twitch subscriber and I rarely get to participate, but I'm happy to contribute,
Well, this is the thing. So one of the great things with Twitch, you have different, I guess, tiers we'd call them. You know, you have $5, $10, and $25. And for different tiers, you can get different emotes and different badges next to your name. And I'm, again, very lucky to have probably about 100 people that might not be able to watch the Twitch streams, but happily give me money every month for the subscription, which is great, you know, which goes a long way. What I have started to do now, and this is something I want to speak to you about, I think some of your viewers and listeners might be interested in this, is as I mentioned earlier, if people subscribe to me for $5, Amazon takes $2.50 out of that. So someone would give me $5 thinking, oh, I'm giving Complexion $5, but they're actually giving me half of that. And once you look at the exchange rate, I'm probably making less than that. So what I have started implementing to my streams now, there's a great website called, I think it's called Ko-fi. It's coffee, but Ko-fi.
Okay.
And it's a great subscription and donation website where the artist or the creative can get 100% of the money donated. Nice. So what I would say to people is you can give me $3 or $2.50. So you're actually paying less and I'm making the same amount. That makes sense. So if you're giving me $5 instead of giving me $2.50, you can give me $5 and know that I'm getting $5. And so I encourage people to go over to there. And what I've started to implement now is if you subscribe or you donate on Coffee, I will then send you playlists of the music I've played. I will send you shows in advance. In some cases, I can offer guest lists to my events, early access to merch drops, stickers and other little things like that. So I've never wanted to put anything behind a paywall because I don't agree with that. I understand as a creative, we all have to get paid. However, I want to make sure that everyone who listens to my show, they can continually listen to the show without feeling like they have to donate or subscribe to get content. What I'd like to do is people that do subscribe is give them more content. So it makes it worth their while.
Yeah. Yeah. And so do you have an email list?
No, so this is something that I actually messaged you about because I watched your last podcast and I was like, Chakoti, this is something I need to be doing is an email list. So up until probably a month ago, what you could do with Twitch is you could actually email all your subscribers, which was a great way to communicate with people that actually, do subscribe to you. So what I would do after every show, all the music I'd played, I'd make it into a private Spotify playlist and I'd send them the music, say, this is everything I've played. Without me doing anything to it, without me talking over it. And you can take a listen. I'd send them artwork. The show is very famous for its artwork as well. We'd send them artwork that they could use for wallpapers on their laptops, desktops, or their iPhone or phone, and just give them little things that we could do. Unfortunately, Twitch has taken that away. For some reason, I'm not sure why. So what I'm doing now is I'm now building another mailing list, but I'm also using Coffee to be able to do the same thing as well.
Yeah.
And their mailings are very important, just to say.
Absolutely. And yeah, I mean, this is the Creator Business Show sponsored by Pico. One of the things that Pico is really known for is helping you monetize your email list and be able to create these limited groups and do drops and things like that. So, offline we can definitely explore.
Definitely. No, that's it. I mean, like I mentioned, I saw a clip of one of your podcasts and I was like, this is what I need to be doing. And the next thing I know, I'm on the podcast.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Yeah. Okay. So, let's talk about the design for a second, because we were talking about the merch drops. And the aesthetic of the show is something I've always admired. And I'm sure everyone that's ever encountered the content on SoundCloud is just like, what is this? This is mind blowing. So talk about the team that you have around you to support you, even if you're not looking to heavily monetize, you've had amazing artists support this journey for many years.
So I mean, when I've pretty much done everything by myself. I had an old business partner who helped me in terms of, he came from a background of, like I mentioned earlier, magazines and podcasting. So he wanted to take things a different way to what I wanted to do. I am definitely the more arty person where I just think, I do something really creative. I'm like, this is it. That's it. Whereas the business partners I've had before, they're very much like, we need mailing lists. We need this. We need this. And I'm like, it will be ready when it's ready. They're like, no, we need to stick to dates. So that's something I always find like I need to have someone working with me who can be the opposite to how I am, So at the moment, I'm working with a great person, a guy called Mensa. And since he's been on board, you've probably seen things have changed for the better with TFBS in terms of the merch launch and a bunch of other things. So in terms of working with artists, one thing I've always stood by is, if I'm able to, is to bring recognition to other creatives. I feel like with the internet, it can be the Wild West. I've seen people rip off other people's ideas. I've seen people get credit for things which they shouldn't have done. And it's been crazy like that. So for me, if I can showcase people that I really like, if I have a platform for that, that's what I want to do. So everything we've done, unless if I've designed it, I've done it myself. Otherwise, we've reached out to someone, we've paid them, or we've worked out some kind of deal. Because a lot of people approach me saying, I would love to do this for you for free. I'm like, we can't do that. That I have to do, we have to work something out. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they're just like, we're just fans of the show and we just want to give you this as as something, which is amazing. We had someone design, for the life of me, I can't remember his name, but he designed us a 4D animation for I think it was episode 250, completely free of charge,
Wow.
completely. But I think from that, I think he actually got a bunch of job offers, not huge offers, but other creative people reached out to him for some work, which is great.
Stepping stone.
Exactly. So for me, if I'm able to do that, I'd love to do that, because growing up, I've had people promise me lots of things, as I'm sure we all have, and things don't work out. And I know sometimes that doesn't happen, but I just want to make sure that people who I think deserve recognition get it, which is why we reach out to independent artists to design artwork. If I can do things myself, I will. And now that the show's been going on for such a long time, I feel like people understand the whole, I guess, look behind the show and the aesthetic behind the show.
And how do you describe the aesthetic?
Right. So I've always been a space geek. I've always loved space, of the idea of space and what's out there. The problem is a lot of other people weren't really interested in space as much as I am. So I never had anyone really to talk to about it. So for me, when I first heard this Future Beats music, it just reminded me of stargazing, floating through space, and anything, just I guess the wonder that we have is about what's out there. That's what this music, that's what it made me feel like. And I thought this is the perfect thing that I can mix the two things that I enjoy, space and music. So the whole aesthetic behind the show is space, and the idea is it's music you would listen to if you were floating through space, whatever that is. And I feel like once you listen to the show, you'll get that feeling. And that's the artwork and everything, that's where it stems from. And it gives me an excuse to talk about space now every week if I wanted to. We don't go too deep into it, but it's been great, because even at somewhere like, say, Coachella, they have the giant astronaut. I had 50 or 60 people take pictures of it and tag me in it and just say, oh, look, there's an astronaut here. And that's great that people associate the branding with anything to do with space now. And what's even funnier is I have some really loyal listeners who will see, let's say, for example, Nike will do something with space. They'll message me and be like, oh, Nike's ripping you off. I'm like, I don't own space. Like, it's not mine. But it's great that strong branding, that's what it will do. And I feel like if you can do that, if you can associate something with you, it can be so beneficial.
Yeah. And your listeners, the listener community, are called?
Oh, we call them the astronauts. Yeah, we call them the TFBS astronauts. TFBS is short for the Future Beat Show. And again, the whole idea now when I start the show is I paint a picture at the beginning of the show, which is we're leaving Earth and we're going to go exploring. And this is the soundtrack to your journey through space. As most people, I've struggled with mental health, as I'm sure we all have. And one of the things I really like is over the last few years, it's come to the forefront. People aren't afraid to talk about it. And I've realized a lot of things about myself, which I thought I was really strange for having these thoughts or feeling this way. And especially with anxiety. And one of the ideas with the show is just to hopefully melt that away. And one of the phrases we have for the show is next week, best week, which is something a friend of mine and myself, we would call each other up every Sunday. And we just talk for 10 or 15 minutes and we just say, how was your week? And he'd tell me how the week was. And I say, what are you looking forward to this week? And he'd say, this, or this, and I'm hoping it'll be a great week, or it'll be the best week ever. And then we came up with next week, best week, very short way of just saying, hey, listen, you know what? If this week isn't going well, the next week could be the greatest week of your life. So all you got to do is get through this week. That's all it is. And the show on Monday is a reset point. So I just think of it as we're going on a journey and we're leaving all of this negativity, this anxiety behind us. We get to explore, listen to some great music, just be calm for an hour and a half or 2 hours. And we come back and we go again. And that's it. And some people find my voice really calming. I personally don't see it. But I feel like my voice mixed with the music, people seem to really like. And I know you laughed there, but the thing is, I'm not sure I told you, Chakoti, but when I was younger, I had a really bad lisp, which you can still hear occasionally. So I hated public speaking. And so when people tell me that they like listening to my voice or they like the way I present the show, I think they're all lying. I don't believe anyone. I'm like, no, you're lying. I don't believe you.
8 years in, I hope you're starting to.
No, not at all. I don't. I mean, I guess it's my voice, so it is what it is. But people tell me that mixed with the music is a very calming experience. So I just feel if I can help people start the week on a good way, or whenever they listen to the show, if I can help them with their week and their mental health with music and my voice, which is something which I love, which is uniquely me, then isn't that a great feeling?
Okay, well, You know, as a listener, fan, friend, I listen to every episode minimum of 4 or 5 times throughout the week. So you're on
Oh,
episode
it's
200
you
and
that's listening to
it's
that.
me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's amazing that you have found the replacement to in-person DJ gigs, and now you're DJing in person as well, right? But people
Yes.
in
Yeah.
Mombasa, Kenya, or Cape Town, or Seoul, or Calgary, Canada, can now go to a DJ gig.
I should have mentioned this. So during lockdown, a few listeners had their birthdays and their partners would reach out to me and say, we're having a barbecue, socially distanced, or it's just family. Could we stream your sets and we'd pay you? I said, well, why don't we set up a private stream and only you will have access to it, and I can DJ for you through Twitch. And I've actually done a few corporate gigs like that as well. I DJ'd for a gaming website called GameSpot. I think it was their Christmas party, but it was done all virtually. And we set up a private Twitch room, which is only the people that were invited were given access to. And I DJ'd at a Christmas party, and it was great because we were having a back and forth in the chat. They would say to me, oh, can you, I said to them, I will mix any song. You just tell me what song you want. They throw me curveballs and I'd mix them in and have fun with it. And it was a really different, unique way of celebrating or having a Christmas party, which was great. So again, Twitch came in really handy with things like that.
Yeah.
I feel like that definitely has decreased now quite a bit because people, as much as virtual gigs are amazing, and like you said, it's incredible that people in Seoul can experience one of my DJ sets, it's not the same as in person. And I think we really missed being in person. And right now, everybody just wants to be out. I think once we come back to normalize everything, hopefully virtual events will come back again.
So there'll be that ebb and flow of people just.
This is what I'm thinking. I was going to say, I mean, me personally, I'm still a little bit apprehensive of being out and around lots and lots of people, although I'm fully vaxxed and everything else. It's just, I think, being away for so long, it still feels a little bit strange kind of being around loads of people in one place. And there's definitely a few people that feel the same as well.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, there's the hybrid thing, and then it just proves that people want to participate, and that physical proximity is no longer the barrier to participation if you have the entire world as a potential audience virtually.
Well, this is it. I think the great thing with SoundCloud is that I've been able to reach out to people all around the world. And it's been great. I mean, I have listeners in Tokyo who don't speak English and I don't speak Japanese, and we communicate via emojis, which is great, which is amazing. And yeah, it's been the effect the internet has been incredible in that sense. I mean, when I first started doing my radio show, I pitched it to so many different radio stations, all the big radio stations, and every single person said no. So I was like, cool, I'll do it independently and I'll do it myself. And luckily, the radio station that gave me my first break years ago, Westside, they were like, fine, you can do it over here. And yeah, it's been great to be able to do it and just have this worldwide listenership is great. And I feel like the show is definitely big, but I don't think it's big enough where I'm not approachable. So I have people reaching out to me, and I had a listener this morning just message me about green tea to ask me what green tea should he buy, nice. Which is great, and I can do that. I don't ever want to be somewhere where people don't feel comfortable approaching me.
That's fantastic. And you're a green tea connoisseur, so
I'm big green tea connoisseur. Yes.
Senza, your questions about green tea.
Yes, please.
So you are approachable. You have really transcended from just SoundCloud to now Twitch. You're figuring out monetization with coffee. What do you see as the biggest gap right now in your creative business?
Oh, right now I feel like it's that platforms like Spotify, Apple Music, they're very restrictive for people like myself. And even copyright is one of the biggest issues. And there's something I've never been able to figure out. Reason being, for SoundCloud, I've never made money. I pay SoundCloud to be able to host my radio shows. But 99.9% of the music I play on my SoundCloud show is independent. Reason being, if I play music from a major label, my account will get shut down and then I can lose everything. But the thing is, I'm not actually making money from my SoundCloud shows. So I'm not trying to rip off any record label or anything, but I feel like it's the way a lot of these labels are run is very archaic and old school. And the way the world's changing now, these things aren't applicable anymore, because you can have music on TikTok videos, you can have music on Instagram stories, and effectively I'm promoting the artist. So that's something that's been a big hindrance for myself, and something that I don't have with the BBC show. Because it's the BBC show, I can play anything I like on there, and it's totally fine. Whereas my own personal stuff, I have to be very careful, because imagine I can lose an account just like that if I play the wrong artist and a record label comes after me. So for me, I've always felt like if record labels would work with people like myself, with other DJs, everyone would win. But that's been the biggest problem for me, for sure. Also, I think things like Twitch, as great as Twitch is, taking 50% of money that's coming in is a big problem, which is why I love things like Coffee. We'll just call it Coffee for now, but it might be Kofi. I'm not sure the exact pronunciation, but even things like Bandcamp, they do something great. And if you're unfamiliar with Bandcamp, it's a site where you can upload your music and you can sell merch and music directly to your listeners, and they take a very small cut. But once a month on a Friday, they do Bandcamp Fridays, where they take no percentage of anything they've sold. So that's been great to support the artist, because if I'm not mistaken, I'll mess these numbers up, so please don't take these numbers seriously, but it's something like, if you do one sale on Bandcamp, it's equal to like 3,000 or 4,000 Spotify plays.
Wow.
Okay. It's something like that. It's a really crazy number, and that means to me that someone can sell 100 albums on Bandcamp, and make more money than they would on Spotify. So what has been great, just to flip the question around, is the fact that people are now reaching out to these kind of platforms and working with them. And what's that showing is we don't really need record labels that much anymore. Mm-hmm. Because someone like myself, I've done a tour across America, and I think we sold out 14 out of the 15 dates, or 13 out of the 14 we sold out. And that's me, independent, with one booking agent in America and just listeners of the show. And there was no one else, so no branding, no big promotion agent, nothing else. And that's purely because I've just been able to connect with my listeners directly. And I think that's where things are going to go. But in terms of what you were saying, I feel like what I mentioned earlier, the fact that record labels, they have a very archaic copyright system, and they need to understand that people like myself, we're wanting to help them rather than going against them.
Sure. So then what's the next phase of your business? Like you said, I mean, I went to two of the shows. I went to a show in Oakland and San Francisco when you were here.
Yes.
And you have fans across the US that are, eager and enthusiastic about coming out to support. So it's like, you've got at the top of the funnel, you have SoundCloud, you have Spotify, you have Apple Music, the big platforms, even if they may not necessarily be very lucrative, but getting that awareness is, you have a very rich community. So where do you see taking this community as a business person, and as a, it's like you have a right to, even I know you're an artist, but you have a right to make a living. So, and
this is something I'm trying to come to terms with. As I mentioned before, I'm never the kind of person to be on my Twitch streams and say, hey guys, everyone donate. I don't want it to be like that, but I also understand if I push that side of things, I'm able to do more creative things and do other things. Yeah. So there is a balance for sure. And again, maybe it's just myself, maybe it's me being British. We're very reserved people, so maybe that's what it is. Because I've seen a lot of American Twitch DJs who are just like, send me your donations and we'll carry on going and we'll do this and we'll do that. That's something I don't want to do, that kind of style of promoting myself. But like I mentioned earlier, I want to give my listeners more content if they're able to donate. So one of the great things with Twitch is that because it's visual, I'm able to mix visual with audio. That's something I've always wanted to do. Is my goal over the next 10 years is to be able to tour off of a visual experience, have the music and visuals playing and everything else. And that's been great on Twitch. And it's made me come out of my shell a bit more in terms of being on camera. You know, during the lockdown, we were doing all kinds of crazy things that I just very outside of my character, my comfort zone. But it was just because I wanted to keep people happy and keep them occupied while we were going through this really insane time. So what I would like to do is definitely do more of the visual things going forward, but also do more events. It's something I haven't really done. We've only actually probably as TFBS done maybe 3 events since I've started. Touring is a great way of making money. It's a great way just to establish your brand and also have somewhere for people to go to who are like-minded, and, you know, to bring the virtual crew into the real life crew, which is a great way to do that. So that's something I really want to focus on next year for sure.
You know, how familiar are you with NFTs and digital art movement?
So I'm not the biggest fan personally, but I fully understand their place at the moment in terms of everything. And I know something really exciting that people are really getting behind and enjoying. I've had a lot of offers from people to say, we want to design and help you make a TFBS NFT. So it's something that I will look into, but it's something I'm definitely researching more and more into, because I've heard for every positive there's a negative and vice versa. And also potentially, is it a fad? We don't know yet. I mean, it's only become really hot over the last, I'd say year and a half, maybe. It started to come, you know, now it's very mainstream now. I've seen all kinds of people saying we're NFTing this and we're minting this and everything else, and other terms I don't fully understand yet.
All the big European football clubs have NFTs, and
this is it. I mean, I think Busta Rhymes, a rapper, who said something really profound the other day, which was like, do I buy a house or do I buy a link to a picture of a house?
Well, you know, for you have such a rich community, and the visual aesthetic that you're just mentioning is like you have a visual language that is unique to the Future Beats show.
Sure.
And people recognize it all around the world, and people that want to support you even more than they do, you know, the $20 a month, you know, Twitch or coffee. But there's, you know, for example, hoping to get him on the show. Drew Riley has a community. He's in Atlanta, and his community is about early stage startup trends. And every newsletter that he does now, he creates an NFT. And so the first one he did, I bid on it a few times, and it went up to, I think it went up to about $1,800 just to have the stamped artwork for his one newsletter.
Sure. So that's something, again, I know there's definitely a scene for it, but for me, I just feel like there's something about having something tangible. You know, I'm from the vinyl era. That's what I used to use. I mean, you can't see, I've got vinyl just behind me over there. I have on my wall over here, I have artwork from one of my favorite artists, Robin Eisenberg. And I'm sure she's doing NFTs, but for me, nothing beats physically having something in my hands, you know, right? But then I am a futurist. I am super excited to see where we're going with everything and what's going to happen. And I do think there's something in owning something virtually, which is a one of one. There's something very, very exciting and very cool about that. I mean, you know, we haven't really mentioned it yet, but I'm a huge sneaker fan, as you know yourself. You know, I love my sneakers, and I have plenty of limited edition sneakers, which I'm sitting on that I might sell when the time's right. So effectively, that one could argue that's a real life NFT kind of situation, right? You know, there's definitely some really cool things to it, but I will admit I've seen some really insane things in the NFT world. But I guess, you know, like with anything, there's again, things ebb and flow, right? I think right now we're in the anything goes kind of moment. And I think in the next few years, maybe things might die down a little bit, and there will be, and NFTs might become like a part of regular life. And I'm sure some of your viewers or listeners who are NFT people are probably screaming at me and shouting at me saying, no, you don't know what you're talking about. I'll be honest, I have no idea. I'm still new to this myself.
Well, the Pokemon cards, you know?
Well, this is it, real life Pokemon. Yeah, virtual Pokemon cards, right? This is it. And I'm not going to lie. There was something about having a shiny Charizard card that you just drop all of a sudden and be like, yep, this is what I've got. So, you know, I guess this is maybe people like us, men like us, Chakoti, who are living out our childhood fantasies in a different way, maybe.
Right.
But I'm here for it.
Well, you know, so again, we're on the Creator Business Show, so not everything is for everybody, and I'm sure
Sure.
you've I'm sure you've said it in really eloquent ways on the show. But who are some of the creative business people that you really admire?
Oh, that's such a difficult question, because if I say someone and I don't mention someone else, they're going to be really upset with me. But I will say this: I really admire people that have not changed for anything, that they do what they want to do, not in a way where it's ego kicking in, but I mean someone who just has a this is what I want to do, and I'm going to keep doing it. And this is it, and not in a way again where it's like, if you don't get it, you're stupid. It's just like, this is all I want to do, and I just want to make this kind of art, or I want to make these kind of products. I've seen it with a lot of singers. I mean, there's a very famous young lady who I work with when she first came out, called Jorja Smith, who, if you heard of, she's incredible. She's done some amazing things. And I remember when herself and her manager came to an event of mine where I was working with another artist, and no one was really speaking to them, in the sense that they came down to just to kind of network and everything, and no one was taking them, I wouldn't say not seriously, they were, but people weren't really giving them the attention that they definitely needed. And imagine, she released a song pretty much overnight. The song blew up, and she's now doing incredible, amazing things. And everybody wants to talk to her now, of course. And the thing with her is, her and the management team, they never changed anything about her whatsoever. They just kept it as, this is what we want to do, and people will come around to it. And this is something that I wish I was capable of doing. Like I said, my anxiety sometimes can get the best of me, especially at night, when I just start overthinking and spiraling. And I think, maybe I should adjust it and do something like this. Maybe I should present the show that way. Maybe I need to play this kind of music. And luckily I have some really good people around me who are always kind of reminding me, no, just keep doing what you're doing and things will be okay. People like yourself, I'm sure you and I have had conversations when we've met about these kind of things. So I think for me, I'm not going to name names because I will upset some people, but I will say I definitely have a lot of love and admiration for people that just have a vision and stick to that vision and just say, this is what we want to do, and people will come around to it.
That's great. So then, categorically, people that stay fixed on a vision. And I think you're very fixed on a vision as well.
I mean, definitely. I mean, I will tell you, when I first started doing my show, I had people around me saying, no one's going to listen to this music. This is too chill. It's not something you listen to on the beach, and it's not going to take you anywhere. And DJing for 20 years, maybe just over 20 years, nothing has been as beneficial for my career as this music and this scene has. It's enabled me to do so many wonderful things. I've toured all around the world, met some incredible people, yourself included. I mean, Jagoti, like, I know I've said this before, but to me, it's such an incredible thing that you and I would never have crossed paths unless it was for this music. Like, genuinely, we would be doing our own thing. And, as the day I met you, which was when you were on a trip, I think, a trip to London, and you were on your way back, and I took you to this amazing Pakistani restaurant not far from me. And I genuinely felt like I had met someone who I've known for years. And I think that's what this show and our connection does through this radio show. And it's enabled me to meet people like yourself. And that's the reason why I'm on this podcast, is because of that very thing. So I will say, be malleable, in the sense that have your vision, but if people are offering you advice, take it, but with a pinch of salt though. Like, don't detract from your vision, but don't be so focused on it that you're not open to other ideas and other things. I mean, one of the best things that's happened to me recently is working with Mensa. He's brought on a different viewpoint on a lot of things, and he's definitely someone who's a doer. You look at his calendar, it's just everything's blocked out. And as soon as I say, I was thinking of doing this, the next day he'll send me 3 venues, 2 other DJs, some artwork, saying, look, I've got this planned out. And with me, I'm definitely more of a dreamer. So I think having someone who can balance that out is a great thing.
And he's helping you with the merchandise and
yes, merchandise, events. He's an amazing chef as well. He's opening up his restaurant, Tatale, in February, I think, in South London. He focuses on East African food. We are going to be doing some supper clubs together soon, and some other really cool events with food. And again, just another thing just to mention. So the Future Beat Show, it's all about music. I remember a few years ago, I mistyped the Future Beats Show on Twitter or Instagram, and I left a B out, and it became the Future Eats Show. And people were like, what, are you doing a cooking show? I was like, Yeah, I am doing a cooking show. So Mensa and I, we've had this idea, which we're going to be working on soon, which is he's just going to be making an amazing meal, and we're going to be filming it. And I'll be talking to either an artist or someone in the industry and playing some music and just having like a kind of like a talk show type thing / podcast where we showcase our skill set.
That's amazing.
And again, it just all came from a mistype.
Wow. So you have the creative business partnership, and you get to be more of the artist and dreamer, and then Mensa is also artist, business, get it done guy.
He's definitely the get it done business guy, 100%. If you don't have one, you need one.
Mm-hmm. Some people are lucky to have a spouse or, a partner in life that is that yin to their yang creatively.
This is it. I mean, I have that as well, which I'm very lucky for. Like I think it's good to just again. I know I feel like I'm going back on what I said, but I do genuinely believe if you have a vision, you should go for it. But listen to people around you who do really care for you, who are there. And if you don't have to take everything they say on board, but it's always good to get different opinions. I mean, again, if I would have listened to what someone told me 8 years ago when not doing the show, I wouldn't have done it. So I went against what they said because I believed in my better judgment, But I think you can know, right, when someone really has your back in a way and really supports you.
Of course. And so I guess you've kind of given a preview, but what's the, business evolution of Zaaman looking like?
So for myself.
Yeah. The show, because now you've got this even more prominent platform of the BBC.
Yes.
And you have creative business support. So what's the evolution look like?
Although you know this, and obviously people can't tell at all, I've just turned 40. So this is when you say, no, you don't look it at all.
Oh, you don't look a day over 39.
No, but I mean, the reason I bring that up is again, there's a lot of young people that I speak to in this business. And one of the things is that they always think you have to have everything together by 24, 25. When I look at some 24, 25-year-olds, I'm like, you're babies. Like, you genuinely have so much more to do still. Although I'm not being condescending by saying that, I mean that there's still so much more to do. So I had genuinely given up on doing anything big radio-wise because I thought I'm too old for this now. I think maybe I'll just focus on my SoundCloud things and do some, and slowly maybe cut that down and do something else with the industry. The BBC thing came about, which has been great. And I want to see how this plays out. We've just re-signed a new contract with them, which is great. So expect like another 6 months of new shows, which I'm really looking forward to doing. And then after this, one of the things I would love to do is moving into an A&R position where I'm able to focus on new artists, get them deals, make sure they get recognized for what they do, and make sure, as we say in the UK, they're not taking the piss out of, which is unfortunately what happens quite a lot. Again, one of the interesting things for me was I was speaking to someone who used to work for Interscope Records. And he told me when they had the A&R meetings, they would play my radio show and then listen to new artists. And I was just like, well, where's my percentage for this?
Right,
like I'm genuinely doing your job for you. And again, there's a bunch of singers and rappers who've hit me up and said, oh, we've found so-and-so from your radio show. And I'm like, okay, well, clearly there's something here. So maybe what I need to do is focus on getting these artists paid, but not in the way where they sell their beats to a singer or a rapper. I'm a huge gamer. And I love that now video game music is now not bleeps and boops anymore. It's actual music. So I would love to get this music into adverts, into video games, and just use the love of my, things I'm passionate about and try to, marry the two if I'm able to. So that's something I'd like to do. I think that's kind of like my journey for the next 5 years, I think, is to move more into that. And of course, if the radio show goes as Mensa always tells me, the radio show will go well. We'll see where it takes us.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, not on Pico's behalf exclusively, but for you and your future growth is get that email list.
Oh, 100%. I'm really excited to listen to what you have to tell me about Pico as well, because as I said, when I watched your last podcast, I messaged you immediately like, Chakoti, this is what I need to be doing. Straight away. Like that's all I said. So I'm really excited to do that. And again, with things like email lists, I think it's a great way to connect with your subscribers, your viewers, your listeners. And especially if you said there's a way for me to monetize.
Right.
Well,
because that's what you own,
Yes.
You just said it, is that you get contacted by people all the time who say, your show did X, Y, and Z thing for me,
Hmm.
and they got money. Somebody's
This
making
is it.
money, but
Somebody's making money. Yeah.
well, Spotify's making money, SoundCloud's making money.
Yes.
Maybe SoundCloud's making money,
And
but Apple knows how to make money.
well, I mean, the thing is for the longest time, my attitude has been, if I work hard enough, it will just come around. And one could argue that 8 years later, yes, I've now got a BBC show, which is great. But there's so many opportunities I missed out on before because I've seen the way people operate in this business. I've seen people charge for absolutely everything and anything, and I guess, maybe it's the fact that I need to be more forthcoming with things. I've just always believed if you work hard, things will come around. But that's not always the way things work.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
There's a colleague of mine, and I'm hoping to get him on the show as well. His name is Josh Constein, and he now works in startup investing, but he was a reporter at a publication called TechCrunch, which you may have heard of.
Oh, yes, I have. Yes.
And he tweeted recently that he had generated over 40 million page views of his stories.
Right.
And all he got was his salary. So, he has done quite well in transitioning to startup investing. And, he knows the startup scene as well as anybody. But imagine his exposure and his reach if he had been able to collect email addresses, even, a small percentage of the people that read his stories over 8 or 9 years.
Yeah, no, you're 100% correct. And that's something I need to take advantage of because I've seen people who have nowhere near the listenership that I do, who do weekly newsletters. And I think with newsletters, it's a great way to showcase the community as well and just interact with them on a personal level because you can be yourself on a newsletter, especially if you're someone like myself. I guess if you're a business, there's different protocols you have to follow, but with me, I could genuinely just be myself and put it on a newsletter. One of the things I am using in lieu of a newsletter is Discord. And I don't know if you've mentioned Discord on your platform before. Just in case anyone's unfamiliar, it's the way I describe it, it's like having your own personal social media platform. That's how it is. So it's kind of like a chat room where you go on there and you have your different, I guess, what should we call them? I guess they call them servers. So we have the TFBS Astronauts Discord, and on the side we have everything from food to movies and TVs to self-promo to music. And my listeners can go in there, have a chat, talk to each other, share content, and it's in a really private server, so it doesn't get shared everywhere else. So that's another great way for me to communicate and talk to my listeners and fans.
And I know that I don't think we've talked much about Discord on this show, but I do know that people will have private servers and either use Patreon or some other payment platform to give preferential access to a small curated group of folks on their Discord.
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly it. And I was going to mention Patreon as well. I think that's another great way to have content for people that are fans of what you do. There's actually a journalist, Daniel RBK, I want to say, movie journalist, and he's a big comic book movie buff. And he gets a lot of scoops and exclusives. And what he does is he hides what I say hides is the wrong term. That's a very negative connotation. He has exclusive content behind Patreon. So if you go to his Patreon, you'll see other information that he's managed to get. And the other things he shares on Twitter. So again, he's not hiding things behind a paywall. He's still giving you information. But if you want more information, you then subscribe to it. And I think it's something like $3 a month, which is super affordable. I'd like to ask you a question.
Of course.
About how do you feel about subscription models going forward? I know it's become the norm now. Whereas I think you and I both come from the time where you'd pay for something and you'd own it and that's it. And now that everything's becoming virtual and we're having subscription models, is this something you see is here to stay, or do you think we might go back to how other things were?
The thing about subscriptions is that it's so easy to do technologically now. So the barriers to entry from the technical standpoint are low. And the pandemic, I mean, you perfectly exemplify this, where people would have subscribed to you before if you had asked or had set that up. And then when you weren't doing gigs anymore and you had to change monetization to Twitch, then it's like, okay, now you can subscribe to me. You didn't need to before. And, I would have subscribed to you 5 years ago, right?
Yeah. I mean, plenty of people have said that to me. They're like, how can we give you money? I'm like, no, it's fine. You don't have to. It's okay.
So subscription is the new, it's like you can't count on YouTube advertisements or these big platform advertisements and they can snap their fingers and take you off the platform, as you've experienced having SoundCloud accounts shut down. So the subscription has there's a lot of ways in which it's really showing affection and showing the appreciation for the artist, for the creator. There's a community aspect, not to sell NFTs to you necessarily, but having that representation of your support for an artist in an NFT is another reason why people like to brag about their level of support for somebody. So I definitely think subscriptions are here to stay.
Yeah.
They're frictionless. They're a lot easier to do. There's a lot of platforms that do subscriptions. Obviously, Pico can create tiered subscriptions. So you can have your monthly fans, you can have your weekly fans, you can have daily groups of people that are really into the future eats or green tea. So you could even have, for instance, like a green tea connoisseurs subscription, and people could just get your green tea recommendations. So it's the micropayments. I mean, it's just like in aggregate, couple of dollars once a month to somebody you really have a lot of esteem for is not a lot. But in total, if people all around the world, whether it's Japan or Kenya or South Africa or Canada, United States, I can make a world of difference for an artist. And I was talking to Packy McCormick on the show, and he's planning to make $1 million off of his email newsletter.
Amazing. What about how a consumer feels about everything? Because I guess once you start factoring in things like, let's just say Netflix, Disney Plus, SoundCloud, Apple Music, that little $5, $3, they do start adding up.
Sure.
And I've realized, I'm paying, even for things like Photoshop, I'm paying a subscription for. So all these things. And then when you look at small denominations on your statement, it's not so bad. But when you add up, you're like, oh my God, I'm actually paying X amount.
Well, I don't want to be in the position of selling you on yourself, but what's the value, for me personally, like I said, I listened to 15 episodes of your show per month minimum,
Sure.
because it just gets me in a vibe. So that I consume more than Netflix. I consume more than some of these other platforms. But they're just really good at marketing themselves and really good at reminding you why you're paying for it.
So, I mean, what's interesting? I wanted to do Patreon a few years ago when I first discovered it. And I was thinking, I'll do Patreon. And the way I kind of worked it out was, I think at the time, let's just say I was getting 20,000 plays a week on my show. I thought, okay, if I half that to 10,000 and then I do 10% of that, that's 1,000, right? So I've already taken it right down. I thought if those people give me £1 each, that's £1,000 a month I could potentially make from this. And the reason I didn't was because I thought to myself, if I charge people £1 or £2, at the time, Netflix was $4.99 in the UK. I said, am I offering half of Netflix's content for this? And I thought, I'm not. So I didn't feel comfortable doing that. But I guess the way I see things now is a lot of my listeners would happily buy me a cup of tea when I'm out. So the way they see it is we're just buying you a cup of tea every month. We're just this is our little appreciation that we want to take you out for tea, or I'm going to buy you lunch or something in some cases, and that's the way of saying thank you. So that's been, self-doubt. Like I said, something I've been trying my best to work on. But occasionally I do need someone else to tell me, no, this is how it should be. Because I'm never going to compare to Netflix. It's never going to happen. I mean, hey, who knows? It might do. If Mentor was he'd say, yeah, don't worry. We're going to be bigger than Netflix.
Yeah. Who knows? We'll see you on Netflix in a year.
Who knows? But I mean, the thing is, it's like, the other thing, the most important thing is if someone wants to do this for me, they want to buy me tea or they want to give me $20. I mean, during the pandemic, people were just saying, can we have your PayPal? And they were giving me $200-$300. Someone gave me $500. They was like, this is what we want to give this to you. And I'm like, no, please, we're in a pandemic. Please just save your money, focus on yourself. And they all responded with, but you've been giving us to this for so many years for free. Yeah. We want to be able to support you as well. And again, me just being me, I felt really weird about the whole thing. But just like you said, people want to support and they will. And I guess this is why maybe I feel like I do towards NFTs. Because, and that's why I need to change the way I think about that.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you're upper limiting yourself by saying this is what people would pay.
Right. Okay. That's the word for it. Yeah.
And before you give them the opportunity to pay you for things.
Yeah. And I'm not trying to kind of talk myself down in this sense. The reason I'm saying all this is because if anybody else feels the same way, I'm hoping they'll be like, I think that way too, and I shouldn't think like that. Because I'm not saying the way I think is right. It's wrong. We shouldn't think like that. If you're offering a service, you should be getting compensated for it.
Sure.
Unless you'd like to do it for free and it's just a hobby or something, But imagine, doing now 2 radio shows a week isn't easy, And I think I'm actually going to stream tonight, I think, as well, because there's a few people who've been asking me to start streaming more regularly. Because of work, I haven't been able to. But, at one point I was streaming 3 or 4 times a week for 4 hours at a time,
I guarantee you, without having to compromise your integrity, if you say, I'm doing a private stream, then people will show up for it and people will pay for it if you give them the opportunity to.
Yeah, I think that's it, right? You have to give
You're
people
British,
the opportunity to.
So just culturally, maybe. Although there are plenty of savvy British business people.
Oh, 100% there is.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, I think culturally and also the fact that I'm British. I think these two things really, and it's just self-doubt anyway. I think I've always been my worst enemy. And if anybody else feels that way, I can promise you're not on your own. There's plenty of people that feel that way, and it's not the best way to be. You need someone like a Chakoti or someone like a Mensa in your life to be able to help you keep going and keep pushing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and just technologically, so there's the technology, the barriers are lower than ever. And then culturally, people are now much more ready and willing and excited about being able to support their favorite creators. And, any topic, you can go super deep into a topic. And
I mean, now you just need your phone. I mean, pretty much everyone has some sort of smartphone now. And you can live stream from your phone, and you could, everyone's an expert on something.
Right.
And it's very easy. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Instagram, they're bringing donations to live stories, I think, or to live. Yeah. Where you can, I think they've called it badges or something. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but yeah, it's another way to monetize. So you could go on there and you could just, talk about whatever you want to talk about. People will be able to support. Again, one thing I love YouTube for is there's so many people out there that have all these amazing hobbies, and they just make videos about their hobbies, and people love watching them. There's a man who I've found recently. He just goes and camps, and he has a really Bob Ross way of talking, really calm, really nice. And he just says, right, I'm going to build this. We're going to cook this. And that's it. And his videos are incredible. And he has I love seeing his donations get bigger every single video as well. And the reason I'm saying that example is this is just a guy who goes camping by himself, and he has hundreds of thousands, if not millions of views. And I can only imagine how much money he's making from doing something he enjoys. So if you have something that you would like to share with the world, now is the best time. Like you said, the entry level is so low. That's not a negative thing. Just start somewhere. Don't be like me, who started something very, very late. Chakoti, how long have you been listening to my show for? Probably like 5-6 years, I think now.
7 or 8.
Okay, let's say 7 or 8. Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. So
probably since episode 60 something, and now you're on episode 290.
95 we just did yesterday. So again, imagine I've only started making money from the show in the last year and a half. And I could have done something like this. I'm sure if I'd said to you 5 years ago, or I mentioned the show, hey guys, I'm doing like a subscription system where you get the show early, you'd happily donate $5 to me.
Yeah, I mean, sequentially, I've listened to 230
Yeah.
episodes of your show in a sequence. So
Yeah, there we go. So, and imagine if I had 10 people like you, then that's $50 a month, which is $50 more than what I was making at the time.
yeah, yeah. Well, it sounds like you just sold yourself on subscriptions.
Yeah, no. I mean, I'm here for it now. I mean, I never want to be pushy, but I also understand Mensa will always say to me, like, you are, because what I would do at the original Twitch streams, I'd say to all the subscribers, you get the playlist, and I said, if you don't have a subscription, just DM me, I'll send you the playlist anyway. And then Mensa was like, no, you can't do that. No one else does that. You have to, like, for the people that are giving up their money, you have to give them something because they are giving up the money for you in that sense, So that you can do it if you're, if you kind of cringe behind the idea of doing that, don't. If I can get around to doing it, you can too. And like I said, the entry level is so low now. When I first started streaming, I was doing on Instagram Live. And because Instagram Live, you can't have your own video playing, as in you can't have a video you uploaded. I would play a video on my TV screen. I'd point my phone at the TV, and then I have all these wires and everything going into things just to play music. And occasionally the phone would fall off its stand, and you'd see me rushing over trying to fix the phone and everything up. And then a year and a half later, again, just my listeners are so great. A few of them are PC experts to help me build a PC live on stream for streaming. And now we've gone from doing Instagram live stories to having 1080p, 60 frames per second, gorgeous visuals with amazing sound and everything. And it's all happened because of my listenership. So reach out to your community. If not, reach out to your friends. It all starts somewhere. And please do not make the mistake that I made. Get your mailing list set up, hit up Pico, check out their subscription deals and everything else that they've got. This is the radio side of me coming in now.
Very good.
But honestly, it's great. Like I said, I cannot reiterate this or keep going over this point as much as I can. It's something I should have done a very long time ago. And as soon as I saw your podcast, I'm just saying this because you have to watch this. I can't remember the gentleman that was on, but he was talking about how important mailing lists are and how creative people should be able to be creative.
I think it was Jason, he's co-founder of the company.
Right, yeah, that's it. And he said something so important. He was like, we want you to go and be creative, go and do it. But this is something very important as well. And I never thought of it that way. And please make sure you, even if the mailing list is 20 people, that's 20 people that can turn into $25 subscriptions, or 20 people that will buy your merch, visit your website, click on your links. And that's the way you get out and do this.
Yeah. Well, we talked about this yesterday, kind of getting ready for the show, that I'm 40 now, you're 40. People have aged with the show, and they may not be spending as much time in front of their computers, but they're still fans. And when you have their email address, you still have that connection to them.
This is it. Yeah. I've when I started the show, there were people that were going through medical school, and now they're doctors now, and they've messaged me saying, we're in hospitals, during the peak of COVID, and your shows have helped us. And I've had people that are nurses, same thing, and it's been great to see this growth. As I said, I wasn't joking before. There are people that have conceived children to the radio show, and the children are now 5 years old. It's insane to me, and they're always sending me pictures or telling me stories. And it's great that I've been able to grow with my audience. But that's a very good point you hit on there, which is not everyone now has the time. I myself don't have the time anymore, to always listen to other radio shows, to do other things. And this is something that happens. And I think with mailing lists, you're completely correct. This is a great way to stay in touch with people. They can listen back, they can read back whenever they can. And also it's a great way to have, say, you could do a monthly mailing list, which is like, hey, here's 4 radio shows. Here's where I'm going to be DJing. Here's where I was DJing. Here's a great green tea I've discovered. And you can do all of this in a newsletter in a couple of paragraphs, which is a great way to stay connected with people.
Wait till you get to see the Josh Spector episodes, because he actually is a creative consultant. So he helps people that are creatives. How could you set up an email newsletter and get things going? And it's like, for you in particular, because you have such a distinct community, maybe not every, not 100% of people are going to be able to afford to sponsor, but certain people are homeowners, successful business people, and they would,
this is it.
They would be patrons,
Yeah, it always balances out. Some people, like you said, they don't listen to every show, but they love the show so much. They're like, here's some money, or here's this, here's that. What can I do to support you? And they genuinely just said to me during COVID, we just don't want you to struggle with this. And I was like, look, I'm fine. I'm okay. But let's give this money to food banks. Let's do, so we found food banks all around the world and we donated money to them, to some vets as well. We gave money to, and there were a few listeners that were going through some hard times. We managed to help them out through a couple of things. And yeah, it's a great feeling that a radio show that I do just to the left of me over here, like I do everything in my room now, that this corner of my room has enabled me to reach people all around the world. It's been great. Yeah, really, really good. And to anyone who's thinking of doing something like this, just go and do it. Honestly, you have all this content from Chakoti, which is, going to help you out so much. And I'm sure there's all kinds of gems in your podcast. And you had the Future Beat Show to listen to when you're writing things down or when you're, having a creative block.
Putting your newsletter together.
Put your newsletter together. There we go. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. The whole idea of an influencer is somewhat new, but the fact that you've been broadcasting consistently for 8 years, you really have defined a musical sound for people who are fans all across the world. And you've created a community of listeners. When I went to the show, you had a show in San Francisco at the Milk Bar, and then you had another show at the Uptown Theater.
The Uptown, I think it was, which I think doesn't exist now, sadly.
Yeah. But those people, because they were there, I knew they listened to your show, and the music means so much to me. So it's like, there's just such a, you have such a unique opportunity because you have really defined something for a huge group of people. In terms of monetize, it's like, it's not even monetization sometimes sounds worse than it is. It's really the people who have benefited so much can give back to the creator, and you can support the artists that this way. So I'm excited for you to discover this, and it sounds like Mensa will give you that extra little.
Oh, 100%. Oh yeah, he's great. Just having someone with that attitude really, really helps someone like me. As I said, I am a dreamer. There's no doubt about it. And unfortunately, sometimes I'll dream up these great scenarios and everything else, and I won't action them. And he's someone who will action it. And sometimes he'll message me in the morning, and it's just a list of things to do. And then the next message will be, "Oh, good morning, by the way."
Well, it sounds like you've got a great creative partnership blossoming here.
Oh, definitely. I'm really excited. However long it lasts, whatever we achieve, I know it's going to be great. And I think that's something I've learned over the last few years, is to open myself up, because me and my last business partner, we didn't have the same vision. And after that, I was very much like, I'm going to do this by myself. I don't care. I'm right with this. This is what I'm going to do. And lots of arguments, with myself and people around me. And then when someone like Mensa comes along who isn't super hands-on, but he's hands-on with the stuff that he's good at, that's very important. Like, he's never told me, change this artwork, or that's not good enough, or this font needs to be different, because that's not his role. His role is to do what he's good at, which is, networking, making sure things get done on time, and logistics. And he's great at that.
Awesome. Well, we could talk for a long time, and maybe we'll get to do another check back in 6 months.
Yeah, exactly. I think in 6 months' time, I think is when my new BBC contract will start wrapping up. So it might be good just to catch up, and just, even if we do like a mini catch up, I'm sure some of your listeners, or hopefully the TFBS crew who are hopefully watching this and listening, we'll have to have a little update as well. Because the great thing is during things like this, I get to talk a lot more about the things behind the scenes. Whereas on the show, I'm never a character on the show. It's a part of me. And I think when listening to the show, people always say, "You're so calm with this. How do you, what's your mental state like, and how do you do everything?" I'm like, no. Everything inside is still a mess. But I think for me, what it is just 2 hours just to forget about things, and hopefully things will be okay, and we can all go through these things together. I think that's the whole thing. But I never get to talk about what goes on behind the scenes and anything else, and my concerns, my excitement. And on podcasts like yourself, I can do this, and that's why I really enjoy doing these kind of things. As soon as you asked me, I was like, yep, of course, it would be my absolute honor.
I'm so glad we got to do this.
Me too. Thank you for having me. And thank you to Pico for the sponsorship. I'm really looking forward to checking out their options on a newsletter. And to anyone who listens to TFBS, I look forward to a newsletter coming from me powered by Pico real soon.
Awesome. Before I let you go, how can people Again, how can people find you? How can people connect with you?
Super easy. It's at Complexion on Twitter and Instagram. Twitch, it's twitch.tv/The Future Beat Show. I also have a Future Beat Show Twitter and Instagram page. And the most important SoundCloud page is soundcloud.com/complexion. If you put in the Future Beat Show into Google, something will come up. And you can listen to the show. We've just done episode 295. If you're new to the show, I'd probably suggest episode 200 is a great starting point, especially after our conversation. For episode 200, I had actually got a bunch of listeners, I think yourself included, to send in a short voice note of just any, whether how the music's helped them or how they feel about the show. And then I asked them to pick a request. And that's what we did for 3 hours. And it was a great show to listen to all these amazing accents from all over the world, these amazing people. And again, that was supposed to be the last episode, but yet here we are 95 episodes later,
And a BBC show later.
And the BBC show. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes I have to, when I do worry about things, I have to think to myself, what are you even worried about, man? Like, I'd all much but given up on the BBC show, and here we are. So again, just a reminder that no matter how many doubts you have, if you have a vision, keep going, but be open to listening to your loved ones and your friends, because they won't set you wrong. Well, hopefully they won't, but keep going though. I think that's the number one advice I can give anyone, is just keep going.
Awesome. Well, Zaaman, thank you so much for being here on the show. Thank you for, the major contribution you've made to my life through TFBS and now Future Wave. Wishing you so much success.
Thank you.
I encourage you to allow the generosity of the community that you've created over these last 8 years to propel you in your growth as a business person and as a creative, and allow you to do more creative things. And I'm sure it will happen. So I'm just super, super grateful for you. And I want to thank you.
Thank you.